So I want to talk for a bit about the structure of the rainbow gatherings here in Europe. Now, the rainbow gatherings started in America and had a particular structure. And I assume that when they came over to Europe to spread the rainbow word, they would have set up something similar. By the time I became involved in the rainbow gatherings in Europe, they had already evolved. Already, people didn't want to be there uh, for 4 or 5 days. They wanted to be there for a longer time. And I remember discussions about when to start and how to focus the rainbow energy, and then it actually transpired that it would be new moon to new moon with the focus at the middle of the full moon. Then at one point there was an issue about which full moon we should focus on. Should it be the Cancer Capricorn full moon or the Leo Aquarius full moon? And I remember, as an astrologer, being asked about what I would suggest. Oh, well, this is the alternative society. It's got to be Leo Aquarius. I didn't have any further part in those discussions, but it did turn out to be Leo Aquarius, mostly anyway. So, how things are set up here in Britain. First of all, the area that you're going to be looking in for a site is discussed at the previous gathering. As it is the same with the European gatherings, it's decided at the end of one gathering who is going to hold the energy, where it's going to be in the following year. And then the site hunters go site hunting. And that's an interesting procedure, because with the European gathering, we're looking at different countries all over Europe. And have they got a rainbow focus? Is there an alternative community? Should we be encouraging and facilitating a rainbow energy within that country? So many times we would be going to countries where there were already a rainbow focus. And that rainbow focus was expanded by the ongoing, everlasting rainbow site crew people who travel around from site to site and help to focus the energy in any particular area. So the site hunters go site hunting and they report back, and a decision is finally made about where exactly the site might be. Not, okay, it's going to be in Greece somewhere, for example. But no, it's going to be here at this time, at this place. And from then, there's a group of people from that land, from that area. There is usually a group of people from that area who will put their energy in and blend with the whole European community and facilitate that camp, that gathering. It doesn't always happen like that. Sometimes the people who have been so enthusiastic about a particular area realize that the rainbow support within that area is pretty minimal, in which case a lot more energy has to be brought to bear to make it happen there, to introduce the rainbow to that area. And that has happened a lot in Eastern Europe over the last decade or so. Anyway, once the site has been decided and the date has been decided, an invitation is put out. It's put out by the local indigenous groups of rainbow people, if they're there. If they're not, it's a little bit more diffuse. But usually there is a core energy, a core rainbow energy within the country. And those are the people who create and decide upon the invitation. Then the invitation is put out. Now, these days it goes out on Facebook. But when I first started to go to the rainbow gatherings, even this was already the 90s, there were computers, there was communication, but the rainbow information never went out on there. So you had to look for it, you had to find it, or it found you. And anyway, so the site, the seed camp gets set up about a month, theoretically, about a month before the gathering. Now that depends on having found an appropriate site. Site hunting is quite an issue because the rainbow does not like to pay for land, does not like to be obliged to an owner. It looks for common land, it looks for wild land, it looks for land that nobody really knows who owns it. And that's fine, but it doesn't always work. And sometimes it means that the sites are quite difficult to find. I remember when we did the rainbow in Scotland and how Ros and some friends went site hunting for months and months. And eventually we ended up in this, in this mosquito bog. It's difficult in England, particularly in Britain, I should say, to find somewhere that is remote enough, that is not next door to your supermarket offshoot, that is not up the road from the local garage. You really have to try hard to find somewhere that is reasonably remote, where you won't where you won't have people going out to buy a packet of Whistlers, for example.
Why don't you want people to go out and buy a packet of Whistlers?
Well, because we are all supposed to be communicating and being a self-sustaining community out in the wilds without um, hmm, without people who have got money being able to go out and not only buy a packet of Twizzlers, but a packet of chocolate biscuits or a cooked meal. So basically, it's very hard here in England to find that sort of place. And the only way to actually achieve it is to make the car park for your gathering a fairly long way from the actual site of the gathering. And again, that is actually quite hard in Britain. And there are roads everywhere. You can't escape half the time. It's difficult. So when we went to Yorkshire, we did find a place that was amazingly remote and absolutely brilliant. But I understand, I wasn't part of the organization there, and I don't know for sure, but I believe that that site was paid for. Now, that's a sort of not really okay scenario within the rainbow, but that's how it was.
And you said about that you first of all have to look on an OS map.
Oh, yes. In order to, now that was, I can't remember where we got our water from there, but when you go sight hunting, I've been sight hunting on many an occasion. When you go sight hunting, you get your Ordnance Survey map and you look for the springs. You need water source, a good water source, not a pipe off some local grid of some sort. You need a source of pure water. And so when we went sight hunting, we would look to where we could find all the springs, see which ones might be in woodland, and go. And I remember being on several sight hunts on that level. In England and round about here, Priddy, and there was another one, I can't remember now exactly where it was. Particularly, those two were very focused on the water. And I have been on other sight hunts which haven't been so focused. Oh, the other one was Dragon Hill, of course. Okay, but I've been on other sight hunts that have not been so focused on the water, but actually the water is the most important thing. When people started to build communities and settle, they settled by the water because the water was essential. You couldn't grow anything, you couldn't do anything, you couldn't exist without having the water. And so we used to, as I say, focus our sight hunting efforts on the springs. Okay, I want to get off sight hunting and on to what actually happens. So we go, we get to the seed camp, and at the seed camp, you get there, there's nothing. Okay, you have to set up immediately your own camping scene and then start on, usually you start on the welcome dome. And the welcome dome, or area, as it sometimes is, has a fire, has cooking facilities, has tea making facilities, and keeps the site crew, whoever they might be, whoever turns up, because the seed camp is advertised, anyone can turn up to it. So the Welcome Dome sorts out the physical realities of a lot of the beginning. And then different things are developed and areas are set up and there's a circle and decisions are made and water is sometimes piped from the spring. And shit pits are dug and kitchens are made and the whole situation is prepared for the beginning of the camp. Now, theoretically, what then happens is that as people start to come in, the people who have been holding this energy during the setup gradually step back and give over their responsibilities to the people who come to be part of it all. And we're going to be there for a month. Well, we could be, not everybody is. You can come and go, obviously, as you wish. But if you're going to be there even for a few days, there's a certain level that you need to focus your energy on what you want to contribute and how things and there's the structure that is set up, but the whole focus starts to come into being when the people who are coming for the gathering but haven't been at Sea Camp, when they start to arrive with their fresh and new energy. We've been there for a month already, pretty exhausted. Yes, great, lovely, new people coming in, go for it. And of course they did, and it was, I remember in Yorkshire, there was a huge hurricane at the beginning, and that was a fair number, but we still managed to create an absolutely amazing full moon ceremony. In fact, it was so crowded and so well attended that I actually didn't see half of it. In fact, in spite of the fact that I'd actually organized it. Anyway, I heard about it afterwards and it was absolutely great. And I mean, I had my big sun and Kasia had her big moon and we were out on the outskirts, but because there's no amplification, everything is, we had people standing 5 or 6 deep around the circle where all this amazing stuff was taking place. I saw some of it. Right, and also saw some of it in rehearsal. So I felt okay. And I just loved that ceremony. Anyway, here we are. We've built up to the ceremony. This is what happens. You start off, you come in, you get yourself together, and you realise that we're going to have to celebrate the full moon. Oh, we want to. And so we're going to celebrate the full moon. What are we going to do? And a lot of energy then goes into the preparation for that. And then after the full moon, well, we usually have a chilled out day or two, but then people start to approach a different sort of energy within the camp. The energy is chilling out and it becomes a workshop energy. a learning energy. And in the end, it's actually, of course, a closing down ceremony. But it's quite interesting to see that build up to the full moon, the huge full moon ceremony, which goes on all night, and then the gradual change in the energy. So towards the end of the week after the full moon, there will be a vision council set up. And that vision council talks about all sorts of things, but one of the main things that it focuses on is where are we going to have it next year, and when, and who is going to site hunt, and who is going to hold the energy. And I mean, that works very well. I don't know how it was set up originally, but this way works really well for us. So we have a vision council. Anyone can come to the vision council and speak about what they think, or not speak at all and just listen, or whatever. Usually that vision council is in a large, big lodge of some sort, large teepee of some sort. Sometimes it'll be outside if the weather's good, but this is England. We always have to have a little somewhere to go if it starts to rain. I guess in Europe they don't need to worry about that so much.
Are the European gatherings on at the same time as the British gatherings?
Okay, so there's a European gathering, and then there's Portugal, Spain, Italy, England, Scotland, whatever. A bit like the States, there's the national gathering. I mean, here it's a sort of international gathering, but it's a European gathering. And then there's other little ones, but nobody takes that time. The time of the international gathering is the international gathering. All sorts of other rainbow gatherings and happenings take place at different times, but the time of the actual international European gathering is, at least theoretically, sacrosanct. I have known once of a national gathering taking place at the same time, but it really it doesn't happen.
And is that always that's the same full moon every year for the European gathering?
Okay. When I went to Slovenia, it was the Cancer Capricorn full moon. And there was a discussion then around, should it be Cancer Capricorn? Should it be Leo Aquarius? And I was, as an astrologer, I've been doing a bit of astrology teaching. As an astrologer, I was asked, what did I think? No question really. We're an alternative society. We're hugely creative. It's got to be Leo Aquarius. Now, of course, there is the other scenario where we are a family, and Cancer is very much that family. But the Cancer Capricorn moon didn't have that amazing rainbow feel to it. And I think mostly these days, the international gatherings done on the Leo Aquarius moon.
And of course, the National American gathering is always on the July the 4th.
July the 4th, yeah. Yes. And the thing is that what you really want to do with the American gathering is to be there for the setup. Because you get to July the 1st and it's a blah, 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 war, ah, woo. And it's quite,
It's not the same.
it's not the same at all. It's quite amazing. I suppose these guys have got to get back to work, basically.
Yeah, they don't get much holiday, do they? And so when people are together for a month or more, or 6 weeks, how do they get food supplies?
Okay, so sometimes it's just a matter of going to local supermarkets and blah, but the best solution is that you make an arrangement with a local farmer. And that happened quite often. And Sarah did that in the Canaries. She made an arrangement where the people from the Rainbow went and worked for a morning on a local farm who needed the labour, and they got huge amounts of vegetables, huge amounts of produce in return for just a little bit of labour, because the guys were very happy to help to provide for it. I think that was at the begin. That was quite early on in the Rainbow, in the Canaries, and these days it's become very much a sort of winter holiday for Europeans, and it doesn't quite have the same acceptance within the local community that it did then. But it was very well received, very well supported by the local indigenous community, not the Rainbow people, but of course the Rainbow people as well. But as well as the Rainbow people, it was just amazing how generous these people are with their produce. Probably it might go to rot if they didn't, but it's amazing that happened so so beautifully. And there have been other times, for instance, it wasn't one that I went to, but there was, I think, in Eastern Europe somewhere, there was a rainbow where, having decided on the country that it was going to be in, even if not the absolute site, people started to grow vegetables. So there would be, rather than put in a monetary contribution, which most people did, these guys would put in a food contribution. And this was food that had been grown organically and with love. And it was amazing. But you can't rely on that happening every time, of course. And so the next best solution is to make the arrangement with local farmers. And that is something which people do focus on in the site hunting scenario, yeah. So, other than that, arrangements are usually made with people at the local markets. And that works also. I mean, supermarkets do come into it sometimes, but they are totally the last resort. And I don't think I should even mention them, really. Yeah. So the structure of the rainbow, we've got through that now, haven't we? Yeah, I think so. I can't think of anything else right at the moment.
So if people want to go, what is their best way of finding out? How do they find out?
To go onto the social media and find it somehow. I don't know if you put in rainbow gatherings and you'll get American stuff. Put in European rainbow gatherings, you'll presumably get the European invites. Put in the English one is called Wise Isles, Wales, Ireland, Scotland, and England. I find it a bit cringy, really, to call ourselves the Wise Isles, but nevertheless, that's the rainbow name for the British.
Cool.
Yeah.